Oh, that's scary.
That was awesome.
All right. State person Michael Osborne. Judge Garrett presiding.
Be seated. Before we get started, I would like to have evidence entered into, anything we have entered into evidence. Any statements, any pictures that you may have. Prosecution?
I would like to enter into evidence the law on the use of deadly force by police officers. That's exhibit 8.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. I would like to enter into evidence 2 statements, one by the medical examiner and one by the optometrist of Mr. Bell.
Opening statements, prosecution.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, first of all, I would like to thank y'all for your service. And today we have a case where a man, an unarmed man, on the eve of his wedding was shot and killed by an officer who used excessive force. The victim was unarmed and everybody in his party was unarmed. And the prosecution would like to prove today that it was a murder, an unjustified murder. And we all hope that you would bring justice to the victim and his family. Thank you.
Opening statements from defense.
Good morning. Today, I am representing this officer here with the tragic shooting of Mr. Sean Bell. We have reason to believe, and will prove today, that the officers involved were acting in a correct manner that they were trained. Unfortunately, Mr. Bell is no longer with us here today. Our condolences do go out to his family and loved ones. We have the duty to investigate and fully protect the citizens of our city to the best of our ability. These officers were doing their job to protect the innocent people in this community. We hope today, after hearing this case, that you will make the right decisions on the correct guidelines of the law. Thank you.
Okay. Prosecution, present your case. Call your first witness.
I would like to call Detective Oliver Bell.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Mr. Bell, could you state, Mr. Oliver, could you state your full name for the court?
Oliver Bell, detective. Michael Oliver. I knew that.
On the night in question, could you give us your version of what happened?
Yes. There had been reports of prostitution and drug sales at this club, and there were undercover agents there. The four men had come out, and a heated argument had ensued in which one of the four men had threatened to get a gun from the car and shoot the person that he was arguing with.
Okay.
And he was followed back to the car. The officers and myself were concerned about the possibility of a drive-by shooting. And when one of the undercover officers asked the people in the car to stop, or when he asked them to get out of the car proceeded to hit him and then crash into a police van.
Okay. So, you say that undercover officers had overheard them going to retrieve a gun and come back and do violence.
Yes.
But according to the preliminary report, when the suspects went to their car, not only did they not come back, but they proceeded to leave.
And
So,
that is correct.
so being that they were proceeding to leave, what makes you think that they were gonna come back when they were actually fleeing?
The undercover officer was attempting to determine whether or not there was a weapon in the car, and when he asked the four men to step, or the four people to step out, the car instead moved forward, hitting that officer, and then continuing into the police van.
Well, isn't it true on this night that you all were wearing plain clothes?
I wouldn't call them plain. I think I look pretty good, but yes.
Okay, well, being that you were undercover, that means you were attempting to blend in and dress like everybody else. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And, according to Detective Kip, in your preliminary report, when you called him to give him your version of what was going on, he said he never heard you or any of your party identify yourself as police. Now, this
Objection,
is
Your
your-
Honor, hearsay.
This is not hearsay, this is in the preliminary report.
You don't have a written statement from Detective Kelp.
I have the preliminary report, Your Honor. These are the facts of the case.
Objection
This is
on
not
the rule.
something that was made up. Thank
He
you.
didn't put that in evidence, Your Honor.
According to the preliminary report, Sergeant Kip said he never heard you or any of your team identify yourself as police officers. This is your own supervisor. Why would he have reason to lie on you?
I don't know if he was lying. I did not hear it. It doesn't mean it wasn't said.
Okay. Okay. And at this point, when you approach the victim's car, bring us to the point where the shooting started.
When the undercover officer was hurt, and the car did not stop but continued moving forward and crashing into the police van, we made the assumption that there was something that they were attempting to hide. And in hurting the officer, as soon as that occurs, we drew as soon as that occurs, we are supposed to draw our weapons and protect ourselves. And one officer was already injured, another one in the van was injured, and we felt that we were threatened in that situation and started to shoot.
Okay. Earlier, you gave testimony that you overheard the victim having an altercation with other members inside the club, right?
A member of the victim's group,
But is,
Mr. Guzman.
but is it fair to say that the victim had just left from an altercation?
Yes,
Okay. Wouldn't it also be fair to say that being that the victim just left the altercation and they're approached by more men with drawn guns and plain clothes, wouldn't it be a logical explanation to flee? Our victim had just left from an altercation.
I understand the question. I do not know whether everyone had their weapons drawn at that point.
But my question is, the victim had just left the altercation.
Yes,
Now they're being approached by more men with guns. Okay, wouldn't it be a logical explanation for any sane individual to flee?
I would think that some people might make that assumption.
Okay. Now, when the victim and his party were approached by you guys, and like you say, it would be fair to assume that they thought they were being threatened again by more men with guns, and they fled. What was the purpose of you team's van blocking the victim's pathway from fleeing?
We were uncertain as to whether or not there were weapons in the car and whether or not the people involved intended to come back. That remained to be seen.
It was determined that you were the lead officer in this,
Yes,
and it has also been determined by ballistics that not only did you fire and empty your clip, but you took the time to reload and empty another clip.
that is correct.
Okay. It is stated that even if an officer is justified in using deadly force in the beginning of an encounter, the right to use that force ends when he no longer reasonably believes that the assailant still poses a threat. So my question to you is, after you emptied your first clip, did you still feel threatened to reload and empty a whole nother clip?
Yes, and that we were uncertain as to whether or not the driver of the car was still capable of moving the vehicle. Remember, he had wounded 2 police officers already. We were uncertain as to the state of his condition, and we weren't taking any chances.
So after your first barrage of bullets between you and your other officers, y'all didn't assume that maybe everybody in the car could have been dead already?
Assuming that kind of thing might lead to further injuries on the part of the policeman. So if you're not sure in a deadly force situation, you need to continue to fire.
Okay. And you say your reason for feeling threatened was what?
2 police officers had already been wounded.